Okay. Oh, how did I get over here? It says I'm live, but I want to. All right. Okay, give me just a sec and we will get started. If you're hopping on, my name is Rochelle Renee, and this is Faith Fitness Joy podcast episode number 88. So we'll go ahead and get started. I'm just getting set up. Okay. All right. Welcome, friends. Today is episode 88 of Faith Fitness Joy. My name is Rochelle Renee. I'm an intuitive health coach and healer. And today we are talking about how to attract or achieve anything that you desire. So, just a couple things, little quick reminders. If you are not already, make sure that you like, subscribe, follow the podcast so you don't miss future episodes. This is episode 88, and that alone feels like a milestone. It's also Wednesday, and so Wednesdays is my Wonderful Wednesdays episode. And if you've been listening for a while, you know that it's usually centered around things related to spiritual growth, spiritual alignment, connecting to God, and some of the inner work and inner growth processes. Sort of all things related to that is kind of what I usually talk about on Wednesdays. And I also often do a little bit of channeling on Wednesday as well, just to kind of provide some guidance to the collective around anything kind of going on, or anything that maybe folks are seeking guidance on that sometimes God will work through me to share the answers or the clarity that people are seeking. So for today's episode, as I was, just thinking about what to talk about for today and all of that, it's interesting that it's episode 88 because 8 is the number of abundance. And so the episode that sort of I've been divinely guided to talk about today is how to attract or achieve anything that you desire. Now, this is not really necessarily focused on abundance per se. And I know for a lot of us, when we hear the word abundance, our mind may go to money. And it may go to more of the kind of material wealth types of things, but it's much bigger than that, and it's much broader than that. It's, the abundance of love within you, the abundance of love around us, the abundance of love God has for us, the fact that God is abundant and God is always providing for us, and there's always everything that we need within ourselves and around ourselves. And just different ways to look at and conceive of abundance. And a lot of times God will try to show us this through all kinds of things. Like he's showing me the snow right now. It's falling, we're getting a ton of snow in the space of a few hours. It's probably, I don't even know, we're approaching probably close to a foot. And it's tons of it falling down, and it's just like looking at how much of it there is. And then I live in Montana, so I'm kind of on this like hill, and our house is surrounded by pine trees. And I always think about how that's sort of a symbol of abundance, and just the sheer number of trees that are all around us all the time where we live. The mountains, the sky, just all these other ways of looking at abundance, and how nature is sort of this constant reminder for us of just how much there is around us all the time. And so it's interesting that this is a topic that he's led me to talk about today. I've been getting a lot of guidance in recent weeks around a lot of what I'm going to get into a bit today. And in some ways, it's a little bit of an extension of what I talked about on Monday. If you caught that episode, Monday's episode was really helping you to focus in on some of the mindset aspects of accomplishing goals. And particularly, we were focused on weight loss and kind of, what happens when we get into what I call the start-stop cycle of insanity, where, you start the program and you do well for a few days, maybe a few weeks, and then something happens, it throws you off, and then you stop again, but you still want to lose that weight. You still want to get to that goal body, whatever it is. And so it comes back around to you, and then you start again, and then the cycle repeats. And so Monday I talked about why that happens, and how a lot of basically the nutshell version is the reason for that is that we don't set ourselves up for success internally. We don't get ourselves in the mindset of success. We tend to focus on what it is we want to do and then we go do the things that we think are necessary to achieve that end, to reach that goal, accomplish whatever it is that we want. So that's what kind of gets us in this loop. So today is a little bit of a different way of looking at that, I guess, if you will, and really honing in more on the internal process that needs to occur. And so today's episode is called How to Attract or Achieve Anything You Desire. So this can be, as you know, if you've listened to this for a while, I do talk about manifestation a fair amount on here. But manifestation, you can, if that's not really something you're familiar with or that you really kind of practice, it's also another way of talking about achieving a goal. It's another way of setting out for something that you want to accomplish for yourself or that you want to have, because it's something that you desire in some way or another for yourself. So that's what we're talking about today, whether you think about it as attracting something to you in the context of manifestation, or whether you think of it as a goal that you want to achieve. And so again, I just think it's kind of funny how God works, because this is episode 88. And then as I was preparing for this and I was in the back end of my podcast to set everything up, there was 8s everywhere. I had like 88 downloads since last week or since Monday or something like that. And there was another 8. So there's 8s everywhere. I just think it's kind of funny. What we're going to dive into today is this sort of process that is going to help you if you follow kind of this process, these practices that I'm laying out for you, to help you with some practical ways that you can do this internal shifting and this internal work to help achieve your goal or bring in the thing that you're trying to bring into your reality. Okay, so we're going to talk about, number one, what are the mechanics of that and really understanding it. Number 2 is awareness. So becoming aware of your current mindset is a critical first step. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then the third thing we'll talk about is creating your new mindset, which is really kind of the meat of this episode today, and a lot of what I'm going to be sharing with you in terms of things you can do to do that, because I know a lot of times this is really a challenge for folks, and it was certainly something that I struggled with at the beginning of my own journey with this. So within that, we're going to talk a little bit about how you can sort of rewrite your story and your beliefs, and how you kind of like some of the mechanics of changing the mindset, getting really clear about what you want. And then third thing is some other things you can use that are going to help you along the way. So that's the gist of what we're going to talk about. And then at the end, I'm feeling led to just ask our angel friends for a little bit of guidance around what people might need help with further within the context of what we're talking about today. So jumping into this a little bit, as I mentioned, and as I've talked about a lot in the last couple weeks, because I've been getting this message so much from God, and just it feels like all kinds of synchronicities have been coming up around me, where other coaches I've been working with have been talking about things along the same lines, or other people or friends. It just feels like it's everywhere, and I feel like part of that is because this is something that God really wants us to understand, because this is where our power lies, and our role in co-creating with God the things that we want for ourselves. And a couple of reminders that I've mentioned before about this is, number one, you are a co-creator. God's given you those gifts and those abilities when he created all of us. And number 2, the desires that you have for yourself, whether you think of them as goals or whether you think of them as things that you just want for yourself, they were put there by God, and they were put there for a reason. And that reason is because you are meant to fulfill them, and you are meant to achieve them. And a lot of times, if not always, when you do achieve them, or you go through the process of realizing these things for yourself, you're inevitably going to learn a lot along the way, and you're inevitably going to encounter some challenges, or you can look at it as growth opportunities, as I like to call them, because that's really what they are. And those are things that you're going to be able to then help other people with in accomplishing whatever their goals might be. So that's what we're going to get into a little bit. So let's talk about the first piece of this, which is to understand the mechanics. So what are we talking about here? What do I mean when I'm talking about internal work? As you know, I've discussed a lot on this podcast, you know, we are all energetic beings, and everything, all of the processes in our bodies at a cellular level happen in an like an energetic type of a way. It's all through electric impulse that our the cells in our nervous system communicate with each other. It's a similar process when our body releases hormones that signal different systems in our organs and in our bodies to do different things in response to our external environments. But what a lot of us don't necessarily realize is that this also happens in response to our thoughts. It happens in response to the mindset that we're in and the general ongoing inner dialogue that we have on a day-to-day basis. Whether you think of that as good or bad inner dialogue is really irrelevant. It doesn't change that whatever that inner dialogue is causing this sort of ripple effect inside of your own body, but also it extends outside of you. And it's all frequency. So if you think of it like, they always show me radio signals, radio towers, and like how there's kind of this ripple that comes out of them. And that's what each of us is. We're like our own little radio tower walking around with the signal going out. And so if you think of your thoughts, your inner dialogue that's going on all the time within you, if you think of it kind of, it all collects, it all kind of compounds or collectively produces a certain signal. So, and that is born from an energy or an emotion, right? So let's say that day to day you are stressed out, and that might result in feelings like anxiety. It might result in feelings like anger, frustration, maybe overwhelm, right? And so collectively, those emotions are all sending out a certain signal. And then more of that kind of, more things that match that signal are going to start to come back to you. The same is true when it's maybe, let's call it a more positive type of a collection of thoughts and feelings. So let's say you're having a great day, everything's working out awesome. Maybe you just got some unexpected money, or you just got a brand new opportunity. Whatever, all the, you know, a bunch of different things have happened. You're thinking about all these things and you're feeling like really great. It feels like you're on top of the world. You're happy. And then it feels like all kinds of other things are starting to come to you that also match that same vibe or energy, right? This is how it works. This has been shown in science, right? So this has been backed up by research. Everything, we, ourselves included, us as human beings in this universe is a frequency. It has a frequency and it's an energy. So understanding that is the first step with all of this, because when you start to understand that, then you also start to learn that you have control over the signal that you're putting out, and you can change that signal and you can change that frequency at any given time. Now, it's simple, but it's not necessarily easy, because it's a process of sort of rewiring our brain. It's a process of changing how we are thinking day to day. So that's a little bit about the mechanics of it. So that leads me to the second thing, which is awareness of your mindset, right? So in order to change the mindset and thereby, and you know, therefore change your frequency or your energy or that signal you're putting out, in order to change that, you have to change your thoughts. You have to change what's going on in your inner dialogue day to day. You also have to change how you're responding to the emotions that are coming up as a result of those and your external environment. But we'll get into that a little bit more in a bit. So how do you become aware of your mindset? Well, it's really a good first step, and a pretty straightforward way to do this is to start with just paying attention to how you're thinking. Pay attention to what is happening in your mind on a day-to-day basis and throughout the day. You know, so what kinds of things are you saying to yourself throughout the day as you go about your day? Do you tend to go into anger or frustration if you're in a hurry in the morning and you're trying to get ready, and you drop something or you spill something on your shirt and you have to change your clothes, and then you have to, your kids are fell back asleep after you woke them up, and now you've got to scramble to get them dressed to get out of the door to get to school. And like is that kind of what's happening? And there's a lot of frustration around that, and you're thinking about how every morning is always hectic and blah blah blah. Or does your inner dialogue look different? So starting to pay attention to the nature of your thoughts on a day-to-day basis. Another example is like what I remember happening to me, well, not to me, that I was allowing to happen. I understand that now, but at the time I didn't. In the evenings when I would get home from work, I had a really stressful job, and a lot of that stress was my own perception of the job. And I would just spin myself into complete anxiety, and actually even to the point of having panic attacks in the evenings, because of the way I was thinking. So something would happen at work that would make me start to feel fearful or anxious, like maybe I let my boss down. Maybe something, I remember one time I lost this file that I had been working on for weeks and they couldn't recover it. And so I had lost like weeks of work, and I just remember sitting there crying and feeling terrible about it. And then, I would just go over it and over it and over it in my brain all through the evening after work. And then, it was like I was still at work and still being stressed out, even when I was done for the day and I was at home, because I was living this out in my head, and I was going through all the stuff that had gone wrong. And then I was creating this story in my thoughts around all the things that were going to happen that were bad because of what went wrong that day at work. And so now I've got this inner story about how, I just totally blew it today at work. I did this horrible job. Now I'm just like, I'm just no good because this happened, and I've lost all this work, and now we're not going to get this done on time, and the world's going to end because I got this file got lost, and blah, blah, blah. And so then I'm starting to feel down on myself. I'm starting to feel depressed and anxious and all these other things, right? And I would do this every evening for years. So becoming aware of that, like, where are these things happening in your day-to-day life, and what are the nature of your thoughts? What is most of your mental energy going to? You want to be really mindful of this, because the mental energy is what creates and what ends up making its way out into our reality, and what ends up becoming that signal that we're putting out. So starting to become mindful of your thoughts. Another really important tip around this is to be careful not to judge yourself. And this is difficult, but try to be, just really neutral and objective in observing your thoughts and just taking note of them. And maybe even making a list of the things that are coming up. Like, what kinds of stories are you creating in your mind every day when something happens, whether it's good or bad? Another thing is to look at how you're thinking and what's going on in your brain when you're looking at yourself in the mirror, when something doesn't work out, or when you make a mistake. All of those kinds of things. So taking note of the stories and the beliefs and the thoughts that are going on in your mind. And you'll start to get this picture of kind of your worldview, or the lens through which you're looking at reality. And it's going to basically come down to one of two things. You're going to either have a thought paradigm that says things are happening to you, or you're going to have a thought paradigm that says things are happening for you. And that's really, there's not much of an in between. It's kind of going to be one of those two things. That's going to be sort of your dominant one. And a lot of us, if you're starting this work and haven't done it before, you're probably in the first category. I was as well, and I still have to work at keeping myself out of that category. There's all kinds of external factors that create this for us, which is part of what you want to get at in this process of becoming aware of your mindset. A lot of it starts when we're kids, right? Our parents tell us things, they teach us things. We see how our parents behave in the world. Whether it's good or bad, I'm not even getting at what their intentions are. It's just the nature of, being raised and having parents, and you're going to inevitably see how they respond to the world, and how they respond to their jobs, and how they respond to life, the types of things they say, the types of things they teach you and tell you. These all become kind of your stories and your beliefs as well. It doesn't make them true. It's just what we're raised with and what we grow up starting to believe. And then other things that come into play in terms of our story and how it's created are, things other people say to us, things other people do to us, and how we feel about them and what we make those things mean. Um, and then at a societal level as well, what the media is telling us, what the message of movies or books or other kinds of things that we are exposed to or that we consume. All of these things result in us coming to some sort of conclusion or telling some sort of a story to ourselves. So as you start to take stock of what your mindset is and the types of thoughts and dialogue you have going day to day, your version of the story, whatever your dominant paradigm is, and whatever stories you are living by are going to start to become evident to you. And you want to trace these things back to wherever to try to get to the root of when the story started. Like, when did I start believing this? Like, where did this originally come from? Because that's going to help clue you into like the root of it and the source of that belief. I have another episode that goes deeper into this. And I think it's called Healing Emotional Triggers. But it walks you through this process on a deeper level than I can get into in this episode. If you want to check that out, I think it's episode 14 of the podcast. So check that one out because it's really helpful for doing this and really getting a good idea of all the different thoughts and stories you have. It doesn't have to be in a day. It doesn't have to happen. You don't have to come up with everything in a single day. It's just over time starting to pay attention to this. And then the third piece that we're going to talk about today is how do you create that new mindset? So you have to do the becoming aware of your mindset first. So everything I just talked about identifying whatever your stories are, identifying your limiting beliefs, you have to do that first in order to do this next piece, because you have to know where you're starting from and you have to start to become aware of your thoughts and your beliefs right now in order to change them, because you can't like rewrite them and change them if you don't know what they are or you're not really paying attention to what they are. So once you've started to get a list of these thoughts and stories that you've been sort of living by, the next thing is to start rewriting them, to start changing them and creating new stories or truths that you are choosing to adopt and live by. And this is basically you're paving the way to the paradigm that says everything is happening for me. Everything is happening for my benefit. Everything is happening for my highest good. This is how you pave the road to that and create that paradigm. So it's like sitting with the story. So let's say one of your stories is like that, things always fall apart. Every time you get ahead, you get kicked 3 steps back. Let's say that's one of your stories. So what feels better? Think about a different, like, what would feel better than that story? What would feel better? Like, maybe it's something like, things are always working out for me, even when it looks like it's a roadblock. It's actually a redirection to my goal or what I'm working for. Things are always lining up in my favor. Things don't happen to me, they happen for me. I mean, all of those, when you sit with each of those sentences for a bit versus the one that says that things are always, falling apart for you, which one feels better? So it's really trying to find the things that have a better vibe to them. What makes you feel better? What feels better just to say and start to believe and adopt, right? So that's what you want to do with all of them. And take each of them and start to try to turn them into a belief or a story that feels better, that feels more like what you really want for yourself than the one that you've been living by and telling yourself. This is how you kind of start to align with what it is that you want. And these are like kind of the clues and the ways to finding the feeling that is attached to what it is that you want. And so then the next thing is you got to be really clear about what you want. And I'm not talking about stuff per se here. So it's not really, I want a new car or I want to make a certain income, or I want a certain type of job. I mean, yes, that's all, like, ultimately there is some sort of a goal or achievement attached to it, but I want you to remove the material part of this for this exercise and for this work, and really just think about, how do you want to feel day to day? So let's say day to day you're feeling stressed out and overwhelmed and frustrated. How do you want to feel instead? Forget what reality says, forget whatever current situation is going on. You've been given a magic wand, and now you've been told however you want to feel every day, you get to do that. So what's it gonna be like? What do you want to feel every day? And so sit and think about the types of things you want to feel every day. Do you want to feel peace? Do you want to feel calm? Do you want to just feel happy and at ease? Do you want to feel safe and secure? All of the above. Do you want to feel love? Do you want to feel joy? Whatever it is, like and there's no limit. List the things that you want to feel day to day. List how you want to feel. And then you can take it a step further and start to think about, now you get to rewrite what your day to day is like. So what is that going to look like for you? Maybe it's like, you get up and you don't feel tired in the morning, and you just wake up feeling refreshed and rested, and you're looking forward to every day, and everything is just kind of like falling in place, and your things are moving smoothly, and everything is really like just kind of easy and flowy. It feels like things are just falling in place perfectly every day. You feel like you have plenty of time. You don't feel rushed. You feel like you can just relax and focus on what you need to do. You really are enjoying the beauty of the weather. You're enjoying your relationships and your friendships, like, whatever it is, just start to think about, like, how can you envision and sort of reconceptualize how you want your day-to-day look. And then again, going back to the feelings of all of those things. These are some of the keys to get you to that end goal of that new thought paradigm that says everything is working for you, and ultimately having that different radio signal going out that is going to be attracting more of the things, those same feelings that you want for yourself back to you. So after you've kind of gotten super clear about that and what those feelings are, the thing you want to do day to day is to start finding ways to feel that throughout the day, even if it's just for a few minutes a day to start. Like, you may not, like, realistically, you might not going to be able to just start feeling like that all day, every day necessarily, but you can find ways to do that. Maybe you can, I don't know, pack yourself a lunch for work that feels really like healthy and luxurious, and like you can take a bit of a break, get away from your desk, go sit outside and eat your lunch and enjoy the weather of the day and just take in how nice of a day it is, or something like that. Or maybe you can go take a walk with a friend at lunch or in the morning and just enjoy the fresh air, get a little bit of a walk and just feel a little more energized. Maybe it's giving yourself some extra time to do something that you want to do, or just to like unwind a little bit. Whether it's asking your spouse, hey, I just need, maybe 15 minutes to just kind of unwind at the end of the day today. Can you maybe watch the kids for a few minutes when I get home or after dinner this evening? And then go, give yourself some space to do some meditation, or just take a nice relaxing bath or something like that. So it's whatever this looks like for you, but just finding little ways to build some time in each day that you can do these different things that are going to give you those at least one of those feelings that you want to feel. And then another thing is meditating, and using meditation to go into a little bit of a visualization of when you have these things, when your reality is the way that you want it to be, and just sitting with how that feels. So if you can, sit and imagine that you're, 3 months out and you have achieved the things that you've been wanting to achieve, and things are different, and you're feeling different, like what kinds of, just sitting with the feeling of having it, and just like having those feelings. Or Another way you could do it is to go into a time, maybe when you were on vacation, or maybe when you were doing something where you felt those same feelings. Maybe it was you were, out with some friends and you guys were just having such a ball and it was so fun and you were laughing a lot. So maybe reliving that in your mind to just kind of tap into the feeling again of when you were doing that. Or maybe it was a beautiful vacation you went on and you can go back to when you're standing on the shore of that beach, or at the top of that mountain you hiked, or whatever it was, and just taking that moment in again and allowing yourself to feel the feelings of that moment. So it's finding ways to just tap into those feelings for yourself for a bit. It's all going to work internally in your body. It's if sort of these more negative thoughts are creating certain reactions in your body physically that are resulting in this less than ideal signal going out. The same thing is going to happen when you're reliving these funner times in your mind, or when you're imagining yourself living the life or the day-to-day that you want to be having and feeling. Your brain and your body don't know the difference from when you're imagining it or when it's actually happening. So it's finding ways to tap into that and sit with it for a few minutes. And all of that is going to do wonders for your nervous system, helping you feel calmer, and just changing how you feel literally inside of your body, as well as all the physiological things that come with that. And then another thing you can do after you have sort of done this rewriting of your stories and you've gotten really clear about what you want, the next thing is to kind of like come up with some affirmations that you're going to use to just start repeating to yourself throughout the day. And then even going back to Monday's episode for some of the tips about the goals and getting really clear about that, so that you can get really clear about a couple of goals for yourself and just repeating those, so that again, it's the repetition. You're trying to change your subconscious, and you're trying to change what your subconscious believes to be true. Right now, you have one paradigm and one dominant way of that's working, and you want to rewire and rewrite that. So you have to, it's a matter of repeating these things over time to give your brain time to really like create this new paradigm, which is, new neural pathways and a new route of thought patterns that's going to result in all of these other changes in the external eventually, as well as, physically. So you have to keep in mind that, however old you are is how long it's taken you to create whatever paradigm you have right now. So they're very well established, thought patterns. They're very well established neural pathways, and our brains really like to stay on those well-established pathways because there's no resistance to them. It's what it's used to. So when you're rewriting them, it takes a bit of effort at the front, but eventually it will all start to shift, and your brain will catch up, and then your body will catch up. So these are sort of the processes and the steps that you can do to start to really change that and start to make that shift for yourself. It does take consistency, and it takes it's an ongoing process that you keep working through, and there'll be, it's not going to be like perfect and linear and it's all just magically starts to happen. It's just through doing this with time and continuing to repeat it, your subconscious will start to adopt the new story, and then it's going to start to show up in your reality. You're going to start to see shifts in all these different areas in your life, but it starts within you. It has to start within you first, and the way to do that is to follow these practices, especially with how you're talking to yourself, the things you're saying, the stories that you're telling yourself, and that's why it's so important to sit down and rewrite those beliefs and stories, because those are going to become your affirmations. These are going to become the things that when you catch yourself saying the old story, you're going to stop and remind yourself, no, I've identified that is not true, and that is not the story I choose to believe anymore, and this is the story I'm choosing now. And then start to, say that new story to yourself a few times, and just doing it throughout the day as you think about it. And then the last sort of tip I have for you around this is to also become really careful and mindful of what you're listening to. and the kinds of things you're consuming in terms of what you're watching, what you're reading, and what you're listening to, because it all affects you. And it's all going to result again in whatever that signal going out is. So, if we're spending our time watching shows that put us in a state of fear, that's what we're going to keep emitting, and we're going to keep bringing more of that back out to ourselves. Versus if you're listening to a podcast or an audio book or something like that that makes you feel lifted up, it makes you feel good to listen to whatever it is. You're going to have a very different result, and you're going to feel very differently. So, just keep that in mind, because, again, we're bombarded with stuff all day, every day that we don't really pay attention to. And then we wonder why we end up finding ourselves in these energetic states or these feelings or emotions that aren't so great. So just be very careful and mindful of that and start to be really thoughtful about the kinds of things that you're allowing in to your space, because again, it's all going to affect your thinking and that signal and that sort of vibration that you're putting out. So those are the things I wanted to talk about with you today. And then I'll just take a couple minutes to just see what guidance for the collective, for folks who will see this or listen to this podcast. What can you tell them to help them with making this shift in the mindset and really sort of transforming the dominant thought paradigms that we have to move into a paradigm that is more affirming and more reflective of God's love for us, and how God created us to feel and live and exist each day. So I'm just going to see what we get here. Signs from heaven. So, that's the camera. So some of this could be coming, you could be getting guidance through dreams. You could be getting guidance through maybe things that you're encountering day to day. God is trying to lead you, and even loved ones on the other side of the veil are trying to lead you and help you along the way. It's just a matter of paying attention to it and being aware of it. So again, it could be things that are coming to you in dreams, and paying attention to them. Things that might stand out to you in dreams, like whether it's a color, a certain animal or a certain image or something like that. Pay attention to it and look up the meaning of it, because there's often a message there. And I'm also hearing, a lot of you need to give yourself more space for rest. A lot of us tend to push ourselves too hard, and we're trying to do and be too much. And it's, God wants you to get more rest. He wants you to give yourself more space, whether it's actually getting more sleep or allowing yourself more relaxation and quiet so he can speak to you and reach you. It's something about the noise of the world and how busy we get, and then it's really hard for us to receive these messages from God or from our loved ones across the veil that are trying to help us and trying to guide us, and communicate. And then we also have express your creativity. So some of you are being called to, use your creative outlets. Some of you are very creative. I'm hearing artists, and leaning into that and using that to help with some of these emotions and feelings that maybe are heavier and maybe aren't feeling so good. For others of you, I'm seeing it's like speaking. So some of you may just need to be communicating how you're feeling to people, that maybe you're not communicating it, or maybe you're not being honest with yourself about how you're feeling. and maybe like what you really want for yourself. That's another thing I'm getting, um, is like being really honest with yourself about whatever you might want, being honest with yourself about how you're feeling and what you're maybe what you don't like and what you really want to see change and how you want things to be different for you, because there's nothing wrong with it and there's no shame in whatever it is. So just be honest with yourself and allow yourself to feel how you feel, allow yourself to want what you want. And I'm also getting to like, connect to God more. God's trying to reach a lot of people right now. And it's like, I'm hearing like there's too much distraction to get through. So leaning into your desire to be creative and some of the creative outlets that you might have, is a good way to create that space for yourself to occupy your mind enough, but not so much that it's going to let God get through to you. It's going to, like, things will start to come in for you. And then last, we have Archangel Raziel. And so this is about spiritual gifts. So some of you have spiritual gifts that you may not have tapped into. Maybe you're doubting that you have them. And you're being invited and called to lean into them and rely on them. Again, these are God-given. These are things that we've all been gifted with, that are ways, that are things that can help us as we move through things that are difficult, as we again, back to wanting to attract or achieve things for ourselves. He's saying, like, you have everything within you that you need. I've given you everything you need, he's saying. But you've been led to believe that that's not true, or you've been led to believe that you don't have these gifts, or that you're powerless. He's saying so many of you think you're powerless. So that is some of the guidance that I'm getting from for the collective today around this topic of attracting or achieving anything that you desire. And it's really, to help you with shifting out of this sort of framework or way of thinking of things as things are happening to me to things are happening for me. And I've definitely, this has been the last 2 years of my life, have been shifting out of things happening to me into things happening for me. So I totally appreciate being there. I appreciate the, like, sort of that kind of how it can feel overwhelming, or like, how can I do this? But you can't. And so these are some things that you can do to start to shift that. So as always, I hope that this has helped you. I hope that this has blessed you, and that you find these tips helpful for your own, transforming your own mindset and starting to attract or achieve whatever it is that you desire. This is also something I help with one-on-one. So if you want to find out how you can work with me privately, you can feel free to send me a DM about that. Otherwise, check out just different things I have going on. And I always have different offers out around this part of the work. And then I also have some of my coaching programs. This is a big element of those as well, really helping with the mindset piece, because it really is mind over matter. If you don't get your brain on board and help and find a way to make it work for you, it's an uphill battle. So anyway, that's all I have for you for today's episode. I look forward to seeing you all in the next episode. And also, quick announcement, if you are interested in learning more about podcasting and starting your own podcast, I am currently enrolling for a training that I have for that right now, where you'll be creating and launching your own podcast over the next 6 weeks. But I'm also hosting a free workshop tomorrow here on my page, if you want to check that out as well. So you might be further down the tracks and maybe just need some tips for some things you can do to do that. So check out the workshop. I'm going to be hosting that at 1 p.m. Mountain Time, which is noon Pacific, and 3 p.m. Eastern, I think it is. So I look forward to seeing you then. Have a great rest of your day.